It is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, flag is literally above my head. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to take things out of order to start. We're going to go to item number 6, first the introduction of the new J.C. Solomon's Elementary School principal. Dr. Vieta, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Savas, members of the committee. In terms of an update, as you know, we had a committee, members of the school committee, parents, and faculty and staff, administrators that worked in a process via nesdek, where we interviewed 7 candidates and had 3 forwarded to me, and then I made the final selection. And tonight I'm here to tell you that I have gotten into a perfect contract with the gentleman to my right here. This is Dr. John Marcus. John, if you join us. As he's coming up, John's got a PhD in educational leadership from Leslie. You have his resume in front of me. Harvard University Graduate School of Education, Bridgewater State CAGS, and a Bachelor's of Science cum laude in Psych and Child Studies from Tufts. Fantastic learning institutions. He's currently the superintendent of schools in Stoughton, my hometown, as many of you know. I have known John since about 1998 when he became the principal of the Hanson School in Stoughton, which my daughter actually went to. John was the principal. John stepping aside from Stoughton, wants to come back into the principalship, and we're happy to welcome him tonight. His resume is pretty extensive, including having spent 11 years in private education before moving into public education. John, welcome to North Public Schools and the JCS principalship.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, everybody. Good evening. It's great to see you all. It's great to be here. I'm excited to join Lancer Nation and do everything I can to keep the great things going over at JCS and keep the community feeling great and supported and happy, and make sure the kids are doing the best that they possibly can, and our faculty is feeling supported and moving forward. So looking forward to it, excited to be here. It's been a dream of mine to be a principal my whole life, and I'm glad to be back. That I took an off-road route for a while in being a tech director and assistant superintendent, and I'm thrilled to be able to have this opportunity to be in a community like Norton and to lead a great school. So, and to work with some really wonderful other administrators. So can't wait. Excited.
So John will start July 1st with us. He met the staff today in the afternoon. They had cowbells, ringing cowbells. It's a first for me, but it went off really well. We got to meet some of the folks. We're going to try to set up an evening Zoom call with families before the end of the school year. Just a simple meet and greet, and then hopefully during the summer he's able to meet with some families and students when he joins us. So I don't know if the committee has any questions or thoughts.
Just very quickly, so Dr. Marcus, you and I met just tonight for the first time, but let me formally welcome you to the district. It's a great district. We're glad to have you. And I will say, while I have not had any interaction with you before, I've gotten a lot of feedback from people, and it's been very, very positive. So
Great.
I look forward to it. It seems like it's going to be a real good fit.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add that Carolyn and I were in on the interviews, so we interviewed the 3 finalists. And while we could have gone with anyone, I really feel strongly that we made a really good choice. Just watching him during the walkthrough, interacting with the kids. When he walked into Reed's and started signing with the kids, I was blown away.
Yeah.
So I hope you pick up a little bit more on that, because they were really testing you.
Wow.
Well, welcome, we're
Thank you
pleased to
very much.
have you.
Thank you.
Agree. Again, people reached out to me with nothing but great things to say about you. So I'm really excited. JCS is a special school to many of us because our kids have gone there. All gone now, but it's a special school.
For a while.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So welcome. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
We'll also be doing some transitioning with John as he can, because he's got to wrap up his duties and responsibilities, and I appreciate you doing this first, because he's got to run back to a building committee meeting in Stoughton, and we have to go downstairs for the next piece. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We'll let you get out of here. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Is that the fish tie?
That's the fish tag. There it is. I had to have my purple on.
There you go. Tell your wife you can wear it any day.
She got me a whole slew of purple.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Joe, are we going to stay in order, or do you want to go downstairs?
I think we should just go right downstairs so that we can
Okay.
take care, if that's all right with you.
Okay, sure. So we're gonna recess for a short bit here to for the purposes of going downstairs for a presentation. We will reconvene shortly. I'm not clear if we're going to be able to Zoom what we're going to right now or not.
Not live right away.
No. Okay, so if those of you who are Zooming in will bear with us, we will be back shortly. So we will be in recess. Okay, welcome back those of you who stayed with us. Appreciate that. And we're gonna go to the next item on our agenda, and that's the vote to approve the minutes of the May 6th, 2021 open meeting. And we do have a small problem on those.
Yeah. We want to delete the 5-0, all the 5-0 votes to 4-0 votes, as Ms. Stern was not at the meeting.
Correct.
I apologize for that error. I was recorded as we read them until it got to you guys.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes with that correction.
So, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Next up is the warrants. We go to Mrs. Sherry Cohen for that.
I reviewed and approved the following warrants: school expense warrants, May 6, 2021, $727,713.64. May 21st, 2021, $337,732.91. And then for school payroll warrants, April 22nd, 2021, $1,043,448,044. May 6, 2021, $968,161.82. May 20th, 2021, $1,023,759.82. I wish to enter them into public record.
So not objection. Okay, for those of you following along at home, number 3 was the presentation we just went to, so we'll pass that and go on to number 4, the student representative updates. I see we have Malia and Zoe there. How are you guys?
Hi, so this time we wanted to do something else with asking student opinions, and this will probably be one of the last ones for the year as we move into summer. So this time we wanted to do something regarding what students would say if they could ask an authority figure, like any authority figure. We said, you know, superintendent, teachers, staff, on a state level, or like the president, like any authority figure, if they wanted to say something to them, what would they say? So I'm going to start with the JCS. They said some pretty similar answers to past things, so the question might have been a little bit difficult for them. But they said, get nets to play basketball games at recess, be allowed to take a break whenever we get frustrated, being able to be closer to each other, having the cafeteria back again, kindergartners allowed to play in the big kid playground so they can mix with the other students, go on field trips again, have an outdoor classroom, be able to play with other grades, and bring back art, but we would bring our own materials to class. So they provided a solution for that. So he's gonna do the LGN.
So for the LGN, they said, I wish the kids on the bus were quieter. I wish the big kids didn't play on our playground at night. They leave trash and write things on the cement. I wish we could pick classes and have a choice in our learning, which is something similar to a high school student choosing electives. And I wish we had more choices for lunch because the elementary kids only have 2 choices. Malia's moving on to the Yell.
So for the Yell, they want the big tables back at lunch. They want to be able to sit anywhere and near anyone they want. Sorry, my audio just cut out a little bit. But one student mentioned wanting to have lunch first and then recess, and another student said having recess first and then lunch, so there will always be differing opinions. They would love to be able to use their phones and iPads at any time of the day. To be able to climb the trees. And the student said, yep, that's it. Just want to climb the trees. They need soft baked pretzels to be a lunch choice every day. To update the PE equipment, it's outdated. They need to upgrade the playground. Similar reasons to PE equipment, old, outdated, and don't do MCAS, especially during a pandemic. But one student said, keep it the same. I love the way everything progressed this year. It moved just right for me. Another said, nothing to change. I think it's perfect. And we didn't hear from the middle school this time, so Zoe's going to move on straight to the high school.
Yep, for the high school, It was a lot of similar responses that we've gotten for high schoolers, but they said it was chaotic, but overall, I think things went as well as they could be expected. We should keep the no homework thing in place next year. It was really good for school and life balance. We should still be able to eat outside next year. It felt more controlled this year. There were more rules than a typical year. I hope those go away. And sometimes this year felt interrupted. We couldn't build momentum or we had to skip certain things. That was just in some classes, like when we couldn't do labs or use equipment. I look forward to next year getting back to a better, more normal time. We should keep the coach buses for sports. They have been awesome. So yeah, pretty positive overall, I think, but some changes are, some kids have some good ideas, I guess. But I think that's all we have if Malia doesn't have anything else.
Yeah, I think I'm all good on my end too, but some good responses.
Okay, well, it's nice to know that soft pretzels and full-time access to your phone are the key to life.
We focused on the necessities.
Can I have one thing now, and I might be wrong on this, Dr. Valletta. The reason why JCS doesn't have art this year is because we couldn't get a teacher, correct? It wasn't because of COVID or supplies or anything like that.
No, we had to leave, and filling the leave was impossible.
Okay.
So we made a determination of switching electives around. But, there's an interesting discussion on the area of electives for younger students. There's some research out there that talks about that it's a motivational piece for young students who maybe don't want to go to art, they want to go to robotics, so they want to go to music and art. They have to take wellness, that's a mandatory state regulation, but something to look at. There aren't a lot of schools doing it. It's something that you see a lot outside of Massachusetts. You don't see a lot of it in Massachusetts, but it should be something we should at least study and take a look at. Right? Some interesting ideas, and it doesn't cost us jobs. It actually increases jobs in terms of needs.
If I could just add, I think I didn't tell Dr. Marcus, but one of the things that I really appreciated about sort of his experience and interest is that he certainly is a developmentalist.
Right.
And I think that it might be perfect timing, perhaps, to work sort of with Mrs. Luke to think about what we could do to really offer our lower grades, our elementary students, the opportunity to really sort of build mastery and control and maybe some choice. So, and I think his studies of Piaget might really sort of tie in well with that.
I'm actually wondering, Malia and Zoe, if that's not something that you guys can share, maybe with Dr. Valletta, because some of those things seem like they, it's worth, they're easy to do, and it may be worth looking at. So if they share the document.
Right, that's what they did, the last one they shared with me, and then what I'm trying to.
Share them, and they go in the minutes, I think.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because I think some of them are definitely doable, and I think it will be nice, especially where we've heard from you guys in the past that sometimes students don't think they're being heard. I think when you give us feedback like that and some of these things that we can change, I think it's important for our students to know that they are being heard.
Right.
And if there's any way, it might be too late, but if there's any way to let the JCS students know, because if they're feeling that way, I feel bad that they think that they didn't get art this year because of the pandemic. Like that, that wasn't the case. So if we could maybe get a message out to them or something, just, I hate to think that kids think we took it away because of the pandemic.
Right.
Like that's not what happened.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you.
Moving on, we get the anti-vaping curriculum resource guide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to share, you folks have the actual packet, but I wanted to share this with the public if I may. I believe I have it up there now. So the Massachusetts Anti-Vaping Curriculum Resource Guide came together from a combination of a number of people at a wellness committee meeting and a woman who's a RN and doctorate by the name of Maureen Straczynski, who lives actually here in town. It was in our wellness committee, and we started to talk about vaping at the time. This is, this project started in 2019, and then it slowed down, but we kept it going. So, long story short, the general information that we started to put together is I sent out messages out to superintendents. We collected information about people to work with. So you'll see at the beginning of this that this curriculum guide, which was just published statewide, literally came from the work of the organizations consisted in this welcome here. And that is, we had an advisory committee and a curriculum committee, and that curriculum committee were practitioners, nurses, counselors, classroom teachers, led by my colleague, Dr. Paul Vieira, who's now in Douglas, who was an assistant superintendent at the time in Ashland. So we had Superintendents Association, DESE, we had the Department of Public Health, Mass Health Council, Massachusetts School Nursing Association, Mass Association of Public Health Nurses, school leaders, including principals, counselors, school resource officers, RSRO, Sergeant Dennett was the representative there. The Mass Attorney General's Office, Mass PTA, Health Safety and Welfare Initiative, the Mass General Hospital Center for Addictive Medicine, Collaborative Youth Program, the Massachusetts Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, Dance, and the Department of Public Health Tobacco Cessation and Prevention Program. I mean, these are all key players and people with tons of experience and background in this area of anti-vaping. So as you flip through this, and this is on our website, we've been kind of the distributing group, if you will. What you'll see, besides the names of all of our colleagues, and I also want to mention that the leaders of this were myself, Paul Vieira, Superintendent in Douglas, Maureen, as I mentioned earlier, and Pat Crombie from the Mass Action Coalition. We really were the people that kind of said, hey, let's do this. We got 2 grants for $50,000, 2 $25,000 grants, if you remember. Robert Wood Johnson and then the National Library matched it. So we thank them, and this is their product. This is now published with all of these organizations and their national organizations. And we've been asked to speak at the New England Association of School Superintendents Conference in October to present it. So Paul and I will be doing that. And what it is it's a true guide, curriculum guide brought to you by practitioners. So as you can see, they've actually made recommendations of Project Here being the #1 recommendation, in-depth program, a second recommendation. How they went about I Decide was the 3rd recommendation. There's a whole section on treatment options. There's sections here where a student, it's broken up by elementary, middle, and high school. There's sections here where you can actually click on the curriculum and then click and print an 8.5 by 11 poster or page that talks about vaping facts. So we hope that this gets some play. We are going to be meeting internally as a district about this. I've given it to our academic coordinator. All of our staff received it, to be quite honest. I mailed it to everybody, but Nicole Nunes, who's our academic coordinator with wellness, and I have a scheduled meeting about next steps, probably bringing in some of our wellness teachers and our counselors and our nurses to really take a look at this document and really taking a look at what we want our next steps to be, because vaping is back, right? It was gone. It really wasn't. It was just located somewhere else, right? I just want to thank, one of the things that I really liked about this working group is they actually have a formula, a spreadsheet for how they graded each of these and came to the conclusion. So that you can challenge it if you want in any way based upon what they decided. And to be quite honest, we had a Sarah Baines, who's a EDD and MPH in Holly Alperin from the Lighthouse Wellness and Health Education Consulting. They were huge with this group. All of this paid for by those 2 grants. Didn't cost anything except the superintendents and the other commissions allowing for their staff members to attend a couple of on-site meetings, and then everything became Zoom and Google Docs because we were shut down, as you remember. So we're really happy that this was published, and we want to see it implemented. It's not a perfect document because curriculum is never perfect, but really happy I was a part of this, and that Norton Public Schools took the initiative. Because we were dealing with our own stuff. As you remember those days, we were talking about vaping, we were talking about things on the ceilings, and we're talking about do we suspend or don't suspend and all this other stuff. So this is the proactive approach. Let's get this into the hands of teachers, let's get it into the hands of kids, and to be quite honest, let's get it into the hands of parents and let parents see these resources. It's all electronic, all online, right on our webpage. You go to it, you click on it, it opens up, and you can utilize it any way that you wish, and we'll be implementing future. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Have we made any gains against the vaping issues that I remember it was a series of like 3 or 4 meetings in a row we were talking about it, and we had presentations and alerts on phones.
So as I said earlier, the kind of vaping went away when we shut down Billy in one way, and then it didn't take too long for us to see it when school opened. We are seeing it, all schools are seeing it, everybody's complaining it in some way, shape, or form. Lesser, I have to say it's lesser. I think some of it is that, we're trying to make sure that the buildings are safe for students to use the bathroom, not have to worry about people vaping and not vaping because you were in there. And I think long-term, it's about, when a new product comes into society, we have to react to it. But really, it's a reaction and then it's a planning for long-term so that you don't see the vaping use. But the vaping use data is going to be flawed in many ways for this coming year simply because we were out and only half of the kids in and all of that stuff. So really can't give you specific data yet, but yes, we'll get back on collecting that information in the fall.
If I can just sort of add, I think, Joe, one of the, to sort of thank you publicly, because I do think that we are so lucky in Norton to have an administration that is proactive and that is really a creative thinker. And I think that you saw this, years ago before anybody else was talking about it. So once again, sort of Norton leading, and really a very concerning trend of unsafe behaviors for children. So thank you. I really appreciate it. It's a great document. And I've sat in on a couple of the wellness meetings when we were talking about vaping, and I think it was before vaping was really so prevalent. I think it was just starting to kind of hit the radar that this was going to be happening, and I think that's when the discussion started happening. So we're going back a few years, so thank you for being so proactive.
Thank you.
So we're hoping that this ends up in classrooms being taught.
So what we're hoping for a couple of different things. The committee released this to the Mass Association of School Committees Executive Director, all school superintendents, and all the different subgroups of school nurses that have an organization and all of that, counselors organization. And we've released it to every member of the Board of Ed and the Commissioner of Education and the Secretary of Education as a completed document. We did a one-page press release through Karina's office via us. Then we did a second one just for the press. They got their own, hey, next week this is coming out. And then we send it to them electronically. And then we sent all of those people a hard copy. So it looks just like the one that you have. And we have about 15 of these more left. We're actually going to utilize them with our staff so they don't have to print them if they don't want to. So we're hoping that after we filed it with them, that at some point somebody in DESE says, hey, look, can we have a discussion about this document? Or our folks are reviewing this. Don't forget, we're awaiting a brand new wellness curriculum from the state. The current one is from 1999.
Mm-hmm.
So this potentially could be a resource that they put in that curriculum, because there is a section on substance, i.e. not only marijuana and all that, but also vaping. So potentially they could use this. I don't know, but we're hoping that we get, I don't know if the word is recognition. It's the only document like this in the state where a group of people have gone through it and have said, we think that these are the best options, and in most cases free of charge. We also filed it with the Attorney General's office because they were members of the group, and they've been a huge proactive anti-vaping group with Maura Healy's office. So we hope that somebody above us sees it.
The other thing that makes it so powerful is sort of the multi-collaborative effort of so many districts really working towards one goal. I think that really speaks volumes.
I don't want to keep going on this because I know we have an agenda, but we have Attleboro, we have West Springfield, Norton, Douglas, we have Walpole, we have school committee member from Walpole, Dartmouth Public Schools, Blackstone Valley Vocational, we have independent consultant in neuroscience and public health on the curriculum committee, Fall River School District, Newberry Public Schools, Easton Public Schools, Milford Public Schools, and a nurse from Walpole High. So we've hit, and we try to hit different parts of the state as much as possible. And then the advisory group has all of those organizations, if you will, representative, including, like I said earlier, the chair of the Framingham School Committee was part of this original. Mass Teachers Association, Parent Teachers Organization was part of this. So the most important part is what you just said, though. The end result is awesome, but the process to get there, there really wasn't a whole lot of debate. We looked at the data from Massachusetts. We looked at the data from the nation, if you will. at age groups, and then we decided what's the best resources that are available, so.
I think a big part of this is even before, it sounds like it might take a little while to get it into curriculum and that kind of thing, but we have talked about again and again and again, is suspending somebody the right thing to do? They just go home and do it even more at home. So, and the thing that has always held us back is we haven't had a vaping curriculum course for them to go through. So I would like to see sooner than later that come into play so that we're not just suspending kids.
Right, and I think one of the things that's important too, so that you know, and I'll follow up with Nicole, but as a parent of a ninth grader, I know that's taking the health and wellness class all year. They're doing it, they did an anti-vaping as part of the lesson. But it took that teacher probably trying to figure out where things were. Now we have more control here. That person can, those teachers can still use their supplemental stuff and add it to this. This is a supplemental guide, right? It's been reviewed by peers to provide you easy access to information instead of having to Google everything and try to figure out. So a good teacher, like we have, will absolutely take these things that are already organized for them, take the things that they've already found to do, the video clips and all of that, and compile it into that, into those lessons. Because what's coming next with vaping is at a whole nother level. It's coming. It's true. Technology is technology.
I mean, I think this is a good example of, finding the experts in those fields, whether it's, DPH or whoever, and they're guiding the policy. We're not just getting this from the state to implement it with no explanation. We're bringing it to you saying, these are the professionals, these are the masters of their craft, and this is what they say. So I like how we kind of thought a little bit outside the box, and we're going to drive the curriculum because this is what we needed to have put in place.
Yeah, and the model really, with Maureen's work and Pat's work, and bringing in the two superintendents, really they're the ones who said, hey, if we can get a group of educators together and counselors and experts in the field, and then bring in all these other organizations that we know, we could probably provide and develop something that is age appropriate and can actually be something that's a fun activity for students to learn about vaping. And the big debate that we had is that the grant is originally written for 6 to 12, but you'll see in there that it goes down to grade 3.
Yeah.
And we think that you could take a grade 3 and manipulate it and make it a kiddie bag, just by talking about making good choices. So really, really cool.
Well, that's what they say on TV. The earlier you talk about it, the better.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to number 7 on your agenda, the vote to approve transportation fees for the 2021-2022 school year.
Matt's on, so I'll defer to Matt Wells.
Okay, thank you. In the FY22 budget process, we plan for the reduction of the transportation and athletic fees. Both fee changes require a vote of the school committee. So the first one, the transportation fee reduction from $350 per student to $250 per student. We'd like to entertain a vote to set that FY22 transportation fee at $250 per student.
Matt, we have no cap on them?
No cap.
Do we look at a cap? Sorry, thanks.
We haven't had a cap on on fees.
We have in the past.
We have a cap on the after school fees.
Prior to your time here, Matt, though, we did have caps on transportation and on sports. So I'm curious if we've thought about a cap on the transportation.
We have had the discussions in the past, but we haven't really had the ability to reduce the fees. This is sort of our first pass to get the fees. We're actually able to keep it in the budget as a reduction at this point. We can certainly look at it and see what it looks like to run a cap moving forward.
If you think that this is what we can do this year, that's fine. But let's just keep that in the distant horizon. Keep that on our radar.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions about it? No. Okay. Seeing no other questions, I would entertain a motion to reduce the transportation fees to $250 for the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Before we move to the next, Matt, general cost to the budget on moving from 350 to 250 on transportation.
Transportation, I believe it moves roughly about $65,000 into the budget.
Just want to answer that into the record so that people understand that we've had to absorb something else in order to be able to do this.
Good point, good point. Okay, next up is number 8, the vote to approve athletic fees for 2021-2022. And Mr. Wells, to you.
So the athletic fee reduction, we're bringing the fee down from $350 per student sport to $250 per student sport, and reduction of the hockey fee from $500 per student to $350 per student.
Okay, and same comment there. Let's keep on the radar, cap at some point in the future.
Definitely.
The 2 sports a year, 2 kids, $1,000, that adds up really quickly. So,
yeah.
Any other questions on that? No?
Might as well ask the question before you vote. Cost of the budget.
What's the cost of the budget, Matt?
For that one, I think we moved about $80,000 to $90,000 into the budget.
Can I ask a question then, just so it's on the record? You commented, Dr. Valletta, that we would need to absorb this reduction.
Yeah.
So what is the plan, Matt, to do that?
Well, we've done it.
You've done it.
Yeah,
So what is the plan that you've done?
So what we've done to get to the 2.5% is we took your vote was going to be to affirm this, the 100 and whatever the number was, 140, 160 out of the actual operating budget expense lines. So it's not costing personnel, but it is a cost to items we had put in the budget. Right.
Everybody knows it's not a cost of personnel. It's other.
It's expense lines that have been moved out that we're just not going to purchase certain things that we want to get, that type of thing. And then don't forget that we, in order to balance the budget, we took $400,000 in transportation, which is the money that we're going after in the fall.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, in that case, I would entertain a motion to reduce the athletic fees to $250 per sport, with hockey being at $300 for the season for the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, thank you, Mr. Wells.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the vote to approve an appointment of additional permanent building substitutes.
Right, so these are a look at trying to resolve our substitute problem by hiring people as soon as possible for September. So they start to work with us as building level substitutes for 182 days and work for us. And I'm recommending a change in the pay, that those permanent substitutes that work 182 will be paid $100 per day for the first 91 days, and they will be $125 per day for the second 91 days. These are not people that are taking over for teachers for long periods of time. This is the day-to-day operation of the building. So you're out one day, they cover you. If there's nobody to cover, then they in fact help to secure the building, do lunches, do bus duties, and all that stuff. The long-term substitutes are people that are actually have certain credentials and licenses that we have to have in order for them to take over for maternity leave, take over from sick leave. Those are not part of this.
How many do we have right now?
We try to fluctuate getting 2 per building, and it's never happened yet.
2 per building?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do now in this way is get at least that 1, maybe 2 in some of our buildings, but by publishing a fee structure and by trying to publish it now and not in September or in August, we may be able to get some folks that have been doing online teaching in other districts who don't have a job, who are still trying to stay connected to the schools, young kids coming out of college that are thinking about education. This gives them 180 days of work, nobody's going to make a career out of it, but there might be some folks out there. There's also potential retiree who's looking for some extra money. This is actually would probably be in most retirees' cap if they just really want to work in a school building. And I know that they went out at a lot higher wages, but this becomes a little bit better.
Is this competitive with other?
I believe that this I think will be in this type of scenario. You're going to see us at a higher rate than some of the local school districts.
Okay.
I'm not sure that is going to help. I'm actually going after everything else, but
Right.
we'll see. You'll see the next vote is trying to address that a little bit more.
Yeah, I saw that.
Any other questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the hiring of 1 additional permanent building substitute per school for the 2021-2022 school year and changing the pay structure to $100 per day for the first 91 days and $125 per day for the second 91 days.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, next up, we have the vote to approve increase in the daily substitute rate of pay.
Thank you. The last time we voted was 3 years ago. We're moving this a little bit more again and trying to get folks here. I recommended the daily substitute rate be increased from $80 per day to $90 per day for the coming school year. And again, a lot of these situations are people who can work 3 days a week or just Tuesdays or Thursdays, but hopefully we can get some commitments and start to put away some folks into our group. And we're also really, I can't say it's a huge thank you, $10 a day, but the fact of the matter is it's $10. These people haven't gotten an increase. If they've been with us, they haven't seen an increase in 3 years. So I don't think a $10 increase is significant.
Any questions on it? Okay, see no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the increase in the daily substitute rate for the 2021-2022 school year to $90 per day and $110 per day for long-term assignments over 6 weeks.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just want to let you know that our business office, especially Mr. Wells, is not known to be a person who always wants to increase things, but his work and listen to the principals and really listen to the principals and our staff who have been running around trying to fill. And I want to publicly thank the staff who, if people haven't been in a building, to come in the morning and find out that you're doing totally something else and it's not a whole lot of fun, as I know one of our members knows because she does it in another district. So I'm hoping, and I thank Matt for taking the lead on that, and the principals for making sure that I was part of your vote tonight.
All right, next up, number 11, the nesdek 2021 spring enrollment update.
Yeah, so you received the fall, if you remember, you received a fall update. I'm going to share this as well. The committee has it. Just wanted to, there's always a lot of discussion about enrollment, and we're about to go through some pretty stabilizing years of enrollment. You're going to see that some of these numbers for this year already are off to the positive for public schools. I think our enrollment is actually going to be pretty stable compared to, for example, one upper Cape district is down 300 students right now. That's a lot. That's a lot of loss. So we're going to be pushing our families, of course, but this gives you the breakdown of the data. For example, the historical patterns that you see in that first, second page. The number of students lost, 49 in this year. You're actually going to see that this is a pre-K through 12 enrollment. Most of those enrollments are in pre-K for us. That is not necessarily true of other districts. A lot of other districts, it's actually kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. That's not true for us. For us, we've seen that dig early on. And by the way, those numbers are currently growing already as we see a return, or were growing before this was done. The projected enrollments in terms of pre-K to 12 stabilizing at around 2235. That's not going to include somewhere between 150 and 200 school choice, because those numbers are continuing to grow and offset our budget, as you know. As you can see in the notation, we're going to see the 3-year out for K to 5 enrollment to slightly grow. Kindergarten is the most difficult to forecast. We all know that. And here's the curveball. Has anybody looked at the real estate market?
We just had 2 new kids move into our neighborhood.
We are going to see a huge shift because they don't last. All of us are getting, some type of mailing that says, would you like to sell your house? I mean, you haven't seen that in about 10 years. I'm going to guess the market's going to correct itself at some point, but the fact of the matter is not right now. So I think these numbers for us in this area are actually going to go up, not down, for the first time in probably a decade. They're not going to be increases of 60 and 100 kids, but I would project, based upon the numbers that I'm seeing, that our enrollment's going to go up those 10, 15, 20 bodies, and that doesn't include choice. That's just moving into town, sales, that type of stuff. And then next one just shows the data through 230. Again, they're saying down to 21, 28. Again, I already know that when you look at the numbers for 2021, they're wrong because of the basis of things like pre-K, as I mentioned earlier. The next slide is October versus spring. What did we see? So you got spring enrollment up in K, up in first, up in second, up in third, right? Every single one of those, and again, there's slight increases in the green, but they show increases and not decline. And then this is your projections over that time, based on that K to 12 projection to 2030. And I think that's the last one. So this is new. We've never had the opportunity to do the spring enrollment. So you're going to start seeing a fall enrollment around December for this report, NESDEK, which remember running for the record, I'm the chair of the board this year. And you're going to see it in the spring. This is a new service at no extra cost for us. So it's part of our membership. We get it every fall, winter by the time we get it. December is usually when it comes in. And then this is a new one, spring. And I kind of like it because it gets to see if we've had any churn, because remember, we really don't get any new money after October 1st for kids that come to our district there, because the budget is based on October 1. There is an amendment to the Senate bill for $40 million to be put aside for the sole purposes of these districts that have lost a lot of kids and getting some type of supplemental money in the fall after October 1. We could be one of those, even if it's just 15 kids, let's say. But I think what you're going to see is that $40 million is going to go right out the door real quickly to probably a lot of our larger communities, cities, and even suburbs. Happy to take any questions.
Well, Joe, I think you know, I've mentioned this before, we did the NESDEK stuff. I'm mildly skeptical of
Sure.
projections that go on beyond what the current population is. That being said, it's good to kind of get a sense of what the baseline would be. So
I think one of the things that's important, because I agree with you in a lot of this, because it's really statistical analysis to the best that you can based on the numbers that you're given. And so if your birth rate recording isn't accurate, you're off. If you're not taking into consideration and get accurate data on home building, on what type of buildings are being built, your numbers are going to be off. So all of that is, and that's all public numbers that you get from a third source. So, you know, one click the wrong way. What's important to recognize, which has always been a problem for the general discussions in Norton, is if you lose 49 students, that doesn't mean you lose 49 teachers, because that could be 2 teachers in kindergarten, 2 students in kindergarten, 2 students. That's not going to be the reason to cut an entire grade and lay off the test. But while we've lost these 500 students in 10 years, remember, we've lost 29 general education teachers, but we've created and brought up our special education support services program. We've gone from 11 specialized programs to 20, and if I know the 2 people on the screen, Mr. Searcy and Ms. Russo, that's probably going to go up over the next few years, because there's a cost benefit, and we believe a good way to support certain populations of students within our own program. There's always going to be out of district, because that's just part of the process, and some students, that's what they need, and we're happy to do that. But I got a feeling we'll be seeing some changes in these departments that I think will also benefit us long term, including the idea that we maybe want to tuition in students from other districts, where we charge a tuition like a collaborative does. And those are all on the table discussions that we need to have when we're creating programs, because there is a need for seats. And the need for seats is that parents also want their kids in a regular high school or a regular middle school, or they don't want them in a third party. And again, that happens for certain students. For other students, it's best to do it otherwise. So we need to continue to grow our programming so that it fits the needs of students, and not, I think what usually happens is we put students into programs. You know, one of my things that I always worry about is that I want students to move into integration where it belongs. They should be included in every part. And if that means it's only during recess and lunch and during their specials, that's okay. But if we can push more of that, I got a feeling I got 2 people on the screen that are going to be happy with doing that. At least what I've been hearing. So more to come in the future.
you have questions?
I know one of the things I think we've spoken about in the past, is there a way, have we looked into like tuitioning in kids at the preschool level?
So Biggest
Or is there,
issue-
like, red tape there?
Yeah, no, it's not a red tape. I mean, you can do it. The issue is that last year, before we hit COVID, based on the prior year's numbers, and I could be corrected, but I believe we got to a high number of about 113 preschool resident students. Up from when I started here, the high was 71, right? So just to give, not because of me, I'm just saying because of the program changes that have been made. I think there's going to be more program changes made to Little Lances preschool in a positive way. I think there's a need for it in many ways. I also think there's a need to the taboo one no one wants to talk about, and that's daycare. I think we need to start to look at daycare programs for our public employees, including our teachers and our staff, our police and fire, as a way to support families, especially coming out of this economy. And those are tuition programs, those are not. And those can be done with third parties, i.e. with champions. You just have to find space, and that's becoming, as we're building more specialized programs, space is becoming more tighter and tighter. I mean, people have to recognize that, when we say, hey, 4 students are going to stay in district for this program, they need appropriate educational space and support. And some of those are very creative. One day I hope to, maybe this summer, we can take a spin so you can see some of those creative classrooms, what needs to go into to support students in those specialized areas. But yes, I think that's we continue to look at it. Anne Marie Baker is our preschool coordinator and early childhood coordinator, and assistant principal down there. And I know she's got some ideas about continuing to look at options.
I think those are all great ideas. I like the one about daycare as well for our staff, and a nice collaboration with the town.
Absolutely.
That employees have that option as well. I think that's, again, another great thing to do for our community.
It's an area that's taken a hit during COVID and right now post-COVID.
Yeah.
You're looking at these daycare centers that are not opening up.
Right.
We have one right now that's informed champions to take over our kids for before and after school care. So it's not daycare, but it's a Champions-like program that's in town. They're closing. They are sending all of their families to Champions. I believe Matt's still on. I believe that's correct, what I just said. Matt, can you verify that for me? Maybe not.
Yes, Rainbow Kids is closing down. They won't be doing the before or after care, and they are recommending utilizing the Champions program.
Wow.
So that's a
That's
big
been
one.
around forever. Yeah.
So there's opportunities to offset the Norton Public School budget, once again, like school choice does,
Right.
bring in revenue. I don't think it's going to be a, $1 million revenue, but I do think that there's revenue that could be sought after based upon the availability of space, and or looking at space that we could utilize that's not within one of our 5 buildings. That's another way to look at it as well. And we do have a partner in Champions that have, as you well know, have been fantastic during COVID. And we've tried to support them as our partners. So we're having some background discussions about next steps.
Great.
Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. Before we move on to other business, I wanted to really quickly jump in. I guess it is kind of other business, but I wanted to use my limited and completely ceremonial power as the chair to shout out a couple of people. First, I wanted to say hi to Sarah Lyons and her LGN first grade class. I was recently at a social event with Mrs. Lyons, and she mentioned that she and her kids would love to get a shout out, so there it is. Hey guys. Secondly, I wanted to follow up on, recently we had Jacob Berry in for the Project 351.
Yep.
And I wanted to just kind of close the circle on that. Mr. Berry ended up getting 294 bags of clothing, 204 of which is going to go to the Cradles to Crayons project, which is his project, and I'm sure the 90 other bags will go to some charitable endeavor in some way, shape, or form. So, I mean, absolutely incredible. I actually saw a picture that his mom had sent me. It's a huge truck full of clothes. It's amazing. So, congratulations to him. That's an excellent effort. Any other business?
So, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Graduation is next Friday, the 4th of June
Oh, that's Friday. Wow.
at
Oh, in 2 weeks.
5:30 p.m. Jim, I hope you're ready for your long-winded
I should
speech.
start that speech. Huh?
The rain date currently is Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Okay, so we're hoping that we don't have to have another rain date after that. The weather for Friday is get some thunder shower questions.
That's
You can't
Well,
tell. That's
that's-
way
yeah,
too
that's-
early.
that's
way off.
Yeah, that's way too off.
This is like calling a snow day. It could be worse, it could be under more heat than ever before.
Right.
But we're gonna try to do the right thing. Also, information going out to families, as we know, the Commonwealth pretty much opens up on the 29th. So there'll be some more flexibility information going out about graduation. That should be beneficial to families. So I'll let Principal Dolman send that out to the senior parents first so that they can see that the rules are kind of expanding, if you will, and allowing for us in school settings to have a little bit more flexibility as well.
For us being there, our masks, we do not have to wear masks outside,
So
correct?
we're working on the specifics of people and how we sit versus, all of that stuff. So we're gonna send something out to you.
You'll
so
just
that
let
you
us know.
Yeah, I'll let you know, but it is on the football field like last year. It also encompasses class night as part of it, which I think, some people don't like, some people do like. It is what it is, we had to plan.
Right.
So,
At least they're having classes.
but if anything, there will be more people there to recognize all the students that are being recognized in some way, shape, or form for. And you've all been asked to participate in that if you would like.
Yes.
And class night will be prior to it? Is that how you're going
Right,
to do it?
it's kind of a-
Right,
yeah.
right into
Right,
graduation?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll actually walk in as if we're starting graduation. We'll hold
Yeah, I don't
hands.
have the specifics, but traditionally, and in my prior years as a principal, we had a awards recognition of scholarships, if you will, and it was actually put into the graduation ceremony, but, yeah. Looking forward to it as always.
I think a lot of districts actually do that, don't they? Don't they sort of do their awards during graduation?
Yeah, so you'll see, for example, Joe Baeta, and then I walk up and then they roll all the scholarships. You're getting the Abigail Adams scholarship, you're going, you get this scholarship. The only issue I have with that at times is that the student's name gets announced and they don't get recognized for anything. But graduation is a culminating activity, so it is what it is.
I mean, I think having it at least as part of graduation is like the necessary evil to do. I mean, last year being virtual, there was little to no recognition for those kids.
Right,
And I know, I mean,
We knew we didn't
we're
want to
doing
do
our
it.
best with what the cards were dealt.
Right, and I appreciate you saying that, Tim, but we know that people didn't want to do it virtually, number one. Number two, when we made these decisions, because a lot of people go into these decisions and a lot of moving parts, we were still worried about one thing. If we have an outbreak during that class night, we can't hold a graduation either with those kids impacted or at all until another date. And we just think that graduation is the culminating activity. And we do have a prom, and again, those rules are even freer now, which is great for the kids. And I'm sure they're gonna be great, but that's on Tuesday, the 8th, if I remember correctly. And
I think the other thing is that when you were making these decisions, nobody knew that the state was going to sort of loosen its guidelines. So I think, you're sort of projecting weeks or months in advance, assuming that you have to sort of abide by what is currently the guidelines. So
I found out from a parent about changes in the regulations. It was never told to a single one of the 270 superintendents in the Commonwealth. It was decided over the weekend and now set at a press conference at 11 o'clock, and at 11:02, I was in another meeting, and at 11:02, I got an email from a parent demanding that, no masks during recess, so on and so forth. And then you saw the emails. I started that process of communicating, it's a process. It is what it is. We are having some issues with some students, to be quite honest, older students. Younger students continue to just want to be together and so on, but we have some older students who are pushing back and don't want to wear it. And I think next week is going to be an interesting week because of the announcement. And, I'm on record with the administration at the high school. I have no problem sending them home. I have no problem.
But the
sending them home.
announcement, I'm sorry to interrupt, but isn't the announcement that in school, this does not impact
It does
school
not
decisions,
impact schools,
right?
but that doesn't mean we don't have kids who want to come to school and decide that they want to do it the way that they want to do it.
Well, and it's also vaccinated people too, right? Which.
And it's pretty,
I think they
I think
very
it's
Opening up everything,
specifically,
they're recommending that.
but
it's
I
not
think very
vaccinated.
specifically, the schools
Yeah.
were not changing
Correct.
regardless. I mean, I think
Desi
that
has not
was,
moved the needle for us
Yeah.
on the issues of being in a building.
Right.
They have moved it on us when students are outside, as you know, but they have not moved it inside as of yet.
So I think that they can be vaccinated, but they still have to have a mask on inside, and that's just per state regulation.
I'm just walking up to people saying, show me your vaccine card so I can take out my mask. I mean, it's the honor system again. We already went through this once, so hopefully, I mean, it's great to know that we're getting there.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see a hiccup that takes us backwards.
Right,
That's the thing that scares us the most.
Well, actually, I'm glad that you went first. My only other order is that I did read the essays. I believe there were 97 of them for the Abigail Adams. So at least 97 students will be getting at least some kind of scholarship. I believe it was over $30,000 that were given. The class is 190 or 100.
I don't have the number, so I don't want to give you a number that's
It's
wrong.
about 180. So those students that didn't write an essay for the, I'm sorry, we gave money out to everybody that wrote an essay. The thing that struck me about our essays this year, first of all, extremely well written. Really answered the question, which was what obstacles or what challenges have you had during your years at Norton Public Schools, and what did you learn and how will you bring that forward? Really thoughtful questions. Two things really struck me. First of all, how many students we have that have lost a parent or somebody extremely close to them, and how that can rock your world. I mean, and how they've come through it and how proud I am of them. I mean, some of the stuff that is in there is just mind-blowing. The second thing was in times of crisis and that kind, I'm gonna pull a Sherry and cry. In some of those times of crisis, they had their sports.
Right.
And if we had ever taken that away,
Exactly.
but that's all.
Thank you, Sherry.
See?
Sherry 2, Sherry 1.
I'm so proud right now.
Kathleen, I should
What, that it's not
know
you?
this, but where does that money come from?
It's the Caber, and she was a woman who's, I don't know if she went to Wheaton. I tried to look it up because somebody else, Jack was the selectman on it, and he had asked that, and I tried to look it up. I couldn't find the information. In the packet, there is a blurb about what it is. I don't know if she went to Wheaton or whatever, but she has some kind of setup that, I mean, it's $30,000 at least, the last 4 years I've done
It's
it.
yearly.
I just have two things, because I think this is our first meeting back since town meeting. So I just wanted to publicly thank the townspeople of Norton for supporting the debt exclusion. That was many, many years of a lot of hours of work that went into that. And I truly appreciate the town seeing the value in a new town hall, a senior center, and or a senior and community support center, and an athletic complex. I think that really will put Norton on the map. I'm proud. Listen, no one likes to pay extra taxes, but I'm proud of the townspeople for seeing the value in that. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention was Monday, the Memorial Day ceremony at the town common at 10 a.m. Mr. Cameron, who runs the VFW in Norton, is donating 5 prisoner of war chairs, 1 for each of the schools. And so a number of us will be there to accept that truly amazing gift for him. It was, during a tough year of COVID, he was able to put that together. So I just want to publicly thank Mr. Cameron and the schools. We saw the middle school and the high school YouTube videos.
Yeah, so
they were amazing.
Yeah, so our students through the social studies department and staff at the middle school put together their own videos. I sent them both to you. Again, this is one of the only school systems that I know of that still continues on Veterans Day and Memorial Day to really recognize its local veterans. And I think that's kind of cool because it's not something, you guys have heard me say that I think these are 2 days that we should be in school. They should be 2 days that we are, not going to our cottages and all that other stuff that some people do, but to actually go to school and read and write and participate with veterans and have days that are just connected to that pride and that connection to veterans. But
is there any way to share those 2 videos with Estelle Flatt, the veterans agent, and maybe somebody like Gary Cameron?
Yeah.
I think that both of those people would truly appreciate seeing what the schools put together, because they did an incredible job.
I haven't watched the middle school video yet. I'll watch that later. But the high school one was kind of amazing to see the amount of connections that our students had to veterans. I think though it was a different time back when our family members were in the armed forces. We don't see that too much now, obviously, but it was like a great uncle. I recognized one of my daughter's tennis player friends who they were a member of the Indian Armed Forces for the country of India. So to have that connection, a worldwide connection of armed forces was tremendous.
Cool.
It was a very good video. It was well done. So kudos to the social studies team at the high school.
It's awesome.
Sorry to keep this going because I know we want to get home, but Sherry, thank you very much for bringing up the debt exclusion vote. I appreciate that. It just slipped my mind, believe it or not. I wanted to say, well, I think a ton of people put a ton of work into that and went above and beyond. I do want to recognize you, Sherry, for the work you put in there because I know it was near and dear to your heart. You put blood, sweat, and tears into that, heart and soul, and honestly, I don't know that it gets done without you. And again, I realize and recognize there were a lot of people involved in it, but certainly from the school committee perspective, I think you did a lot of stuff on that. You got things done here. So thank you very much for everything you did.
Thank you. Definitely a team effort, but appreciate it. Thank you.
And I know that you never want to,
No.
you don't want individual credit, but it's due.
Please don't cry.
I might, yeah, Dennis, if you cry, I'd be so proud.
Where's the
Trust me,
hammer?
I am sorry. We
Hit him with a hammer.
Yeah, you pretty much put them on. Anything else before we?
I know, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, and I'll see some of you on Monday, 10 o'clock at the town common.
Yeah.
And we are working with the veterans agent on a potential having to move at least a certain amount of people indoors and use the schools if that needs to happen. Right now, we're not thinking it doesn't, but because of the weather,
Oh, okay.
we will support the veterans. We might not be able to house everybody. That's gonna just have to be a last minute call, but
So can you let me know, because I have some of the sports teams.
Yep.
We'll have to get word out to
Yep.
them. Okay.
as soon as they'll make the call on what they wanna do, and if
Okay.
it's pouring rain and they wanna do it outside, I'm fine, I'll be there. If they want to kind of, move certain people inside and still have the ceremony taking place, but I think it's important to do that.
Anything else? No? All right, I would entertain, next school committee meeting is gonna be Thursday, June 10th at 6 p.m. right here in the middle school. It will still be remote for those who are not on committee. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?